On today's show, we'll be interviewing Michelangelo Guarise, one of the creators behind Fizzly, a creative smart tag and supporting app which seek to bring fun and interactivity to everyday objects. As well as new developments from your everyday Google services on iOS, we'll also be discussing an ongoing battle between mobile payment service providers.
Hello, I'm Cameron.
And I'm Luke. We're here from Free Deal Studio, keeping you up to date with the latest app news and releases.
This is App to Date. So Luke, would you like to start us off with the redesigned Google Maps rolling out now to iPhone and iPad?
The Google Maps app 4.0 brings a new design to mapping, navigation and searching. The new bright, flat design version of the app brings new integration with Uber and OpenTable. At this moment in time, the new design is only on iOS in order to optimise support for new bigger screens on the iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus.
Now we're going to talk about this a bit later on the show, but I've heard you can log into your Google Drive on iOS 8 using Touch ID now.
Yeah, that's Google Drive 3.3.0. It also brings the ability to open and save to the drive in other apps, as well as the ability to save videos to your drive from your device, and comprehensive support for iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus.
We'll be discussing Touch ID and its support for third-party applications later on in the podcast. But for now, I'm going to talk about Dark Meadow. This game is a bit of a hidden gem, and I only became aware of it after the App Store Halloween sale. The game has been out since 2011, but features graphics that rival even the latest Infinity Blade. When the game begins, you wake up in an abandoned hospital, uncertain of how you arrived or why you're even there in the first place. The game features incredibly sharp writing and exceptional voice acting. I felt myself reminiscing back to my time playing Fallout 3, and like Fallout 3, the Dark Meadow is gorgeous to look at, and exploring the sanitarium and uncovering its history is tremendously satisfying, but the game's repetitive, grind-heavy nature and general gloom and doom does start to wear the impressive visuals a bit thin, a feeling I used to describe as wasteland fatigue while I was playing Fallout and experiencing something similar. That being said, one of the Dark Meadow reviews described the game as the best handheld survival horror game ever made, and I would probably agree. The game takes the fast-paced combat of Infinity Blade and beautifully combines it with a slick point-and-click adventure style. Check it out on the Halloween sale on the App Store today. Now, Luke has just told me in the studio that he's never played a survival horror game. Now, I don't know what's wrong with him. But Luke, can you explain why you've never played a survival horror game?
I don't know. I think the closest thing I've played to a survival game is Ratchet and Clank. You never played Angry Birds, so I mean, we're on a party. I think, no, it's never been something that's interested me. I've always been more into, I don't know, story-driven games. I like story-driven games. Surviving seems like, it doesn't seem like the narrative for a game, really. Continued existence doesn't seem like my kind of thing. I'm quite into games where I have to continue my existence in order to play the game, but
that's fine. We're all individual and unique human beings. Well, talking of survival horror, the lights in the studio have been flickering on and off sporadically throughout the day, thanks to our Philips Hue connected bulbs, which are now supported by over 200 third-party iOS apps.
We've been having some fun using IFT with our Philips Hue bulb here in the studio. It's been quite a lot of fun. The practical implications of it are more so than anything, but the novelty of walking past as I'm leaving the studio at night and just turning off all the lights and making you panic is definitely my favourite thing of all time.
Yeah, we had both Mark, the studio owner, and Luke turn the lights off while I was still here. No, on and off actually. And we've also hooked up the lights to react to the RSS feed of iTunes. So whenever a new app joins the top 10 best apps, the lights flicker. And yesterday we had the lights flickering pretty much on and off all day. It's quite an experience.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a nerd fest, but I think eventually the general public will take this on board. Maybe they can tie it in with some celebrity tweets or...
Yeah, that's it, exactly.
Maybe we'll see the comeback of Morse code coming back into life. Maybe we'll get Morse code messages through the light bulbs in our house of celebrity tweets, you know?
Maybe.
Just ate a Burger King, lol. Dot.
The Philips light bulb does something quite special. You screw it into your existing light fittings and then you can use your iPhone to control it. Or them, because you can actually control multiple lights from the app. I've actually set up the Philips Hue to turn on and off via SMS using IFT. When I text lights off, the lights turn off, and when I text lights on, the lights turn on.
I really like the idea of sending an SMS to your light bulb. It seems like a bit of a nuts idea. If you'd told anyone in the past that you're sending text messages to your light bulb, they'd look at you with some really strange looks. But I'm just thinking back to, do you remember the movie I, Robot had Will Smith in it? And
Yeah.
he walked around shouting at his devices to turn on and off. Well, he didn't, because none of his were like that. Everybody else walked around shouting at devices to get them going. It'd be really cool to get Siri to go, you know, turning on your computer and turning on your lights and eventually having a robot rebellion. And I, for one, welcome our new robot overlords.
In the same kind of spectrum of technology, the Amazon Echo has just been announced. Basically, voice activated and voice command speaker and microphone system for your computers and for all of your wireless connectivity devices. So you could walk in and say computer on and it switch on. I mean, you could team up the Belkin plugs with the Amazon Echo, the Philips Hue, and just about every other Internet of Things device there is, and have a house straight out of iRobot. That'd be pretty cool.
Have you seen the new Nokia one?
No?
I think it's actually got a person's name, and I think that really bothered me. I think having a digital personal assistant with a person's name, I didn't mind Siri because it kind of sounds like a person's name, but you'd never go, oh, baby Siri.
Yeah.
But this one has like some, you know, Eastern actual name, and it kind of freaks me out. It's like Iron Man with Jarvis.
Yeah, I suppose it does get a little bit creepy if you're talking to someone and being like, John, turn on the computer or whatever. And I can see that being a bit weird. Well, I've got an app actually to recommend if you're going to invest into a Philips Hue, and that is called Amplify. Amplify is hands down the best Hue music app you can get right now. But what sets it apart is the fact that it syncs your lights up perfectly with your music when you play it and doesn't rely on your built-in microphone to pick up the incoming sound, which often causes a slight delay because, I mean, let's face it, inbuilt microphones aren't perfect. It also comes pre-installed with a load of great effects and allows you to program individual bulbs to respond to bass, mids and highs. So I bet you'd like that, Luke, you know, being the music man of the studio.
I think I'd probably get a bit disorientated if all my lights constantly changed every time I listened to a song. It's pretty cool if you're having a party, but
yeah,
you might get a bit epileptic.
Well, I think it might be a pretty cool new way of watching horror films, and it certainly redefines the purpose of what lights can do in the home.
Oh my god, that is amazing. That would be so cool. And if it would be much better if a light display came with your Blu-ray. Like a set light display came with the Blu-ray. I'm not really into 3D TVs, and I don't mind that. The LG Curve.
Yeah.
I think a TV should sort of remain a square, and I mean, most people don't agree with me on that, but I think a TV should sort of remain a square for the time being. But to take it outside of the TV would just be a lighting system. That would be so cool. Watching Saw and it goes red at all the key moments. And,
Definitely.
you know, a jump scare, the whole room goes black.
I mean, for me, the Philips Hue is an extension of the Ambilight TVs, which are doing exactly what you've just described. But a lot of people kind of said they're a bit too gimmicky for a standalone TV, as the price difference doesn't really justify the features. But I mean, with Philips Hue, it's fantastic.
I mean, you're not going to watch Coronation Street with it, but
yeah, for a good
blockbuster
horror
movie.
film, exactly. We've got some more news on currency this week. Partners of the Merchant Customer Exchange Consortium, which includes retail giants like Walmart, CVS, The Gap and more, have been contractually obliged to use currency and have been forbidden from using mobile payment alternatives like Apple Pay or face high penalty fees for breaking their contracts.
all this is despite the fact that currency has already been hacked. The company experienced a major data breach as the email addresses of the beta testers and interested potential users were extracted from the database this week. Currency sent an email on October the 30th of 2014 to all the users that were affected.
It also doesn't help that many of the retailers that comprise of the members of the MCX have damaged reputations and tarnished trust with customers as a result of past data breaches. Kmart, Michaels, Old Navy, Target and other MCX members have already made the headlines this year for allowing customer data to be compromised or exposed.
It begs the question, should we really trust those guys with our banking account information?
Well, I mean, the problem is that most people just don't understand how powerful the no credit card fees message is to merchants, and especially considering how much they hate credit card companies and issuing banks. Retailers were paying around $48 billion to credit card companies this year, so their motivation is pretty clear.
The reason that retailers are so keen to back currency is that it works just like the Starbucks Payments app. Connecting directly to your bank account, this way Starbucks doesn't have to pay the 2 or 3% percentage fee for each transaction.
And to put that into perspective, 5 to 6 million people use the app to pay for their coffee every week. So Starbucks are looking at saving somewhere in the region of $25 million, which is a pretty big deal. So Luke, have you ever used this Starbucks app? I know you use the Subway app quite regularly.
Yeah. I mean, the Subway app itself is just a points system. It's essentially just a card. Over here in England, I don't know if they've developed it further anywhere else in the world. So yeah, it's not really the same thing. But the Starbucks app is a fascinating thing that they don't have. Well, it certainly appears they don't even pay tax on it. So yeah, they are.
They're very clever, Starbucks.
Yeah,
well done.
They're very. Starbucks are very good at avoiding fees.
It seems like currency are taking a leaf out of their book. Because heading back over to security, the primary objective of currency has been the widespread introduction of insecure ACH transfers to sidestep credit cards via a direct link to your bank account, not through your card. This is the same system that Starbucks are using in their app. In the UK, this is just known as a direct debit and gives currency access to your entire bank balance. So if someone steals my phone and uses Apple Pay, Google Wallet or NFC to make a fraudulent purchase, I'm protected, just as if I had used a normal card.
But if someone steals my phone and uses currency to clear out my bank account, ACH transfers are not protected. I will be liable for any fraudulent purchases that have been made.
Maybe if consumers and retailers joined forces against credit card companies, we wouldn't see this kind of cutthroat attitude being used. But either way, I find it pretty disgusting. There's no way that I'm going to use a payment system such as currency, which requires a bank account number, a sort code, my driver's license, national insurance number, and then shares this information with all of their business partners. I mean, it's a security breach waiting to happen for which we will have no protection from.
Now, if you compare this with Apple's new Touch ID breach, it starts to get a bit scary.
The biometrics hacking team of the Chaos Computer Club in Germany has successfully bypassed the biometric security of Apple's Touch ID using easy everyday means. A fingerprint of the phone user photographed from a glass surface using a regular digital SLR, much like the one we have here in the studio, was enough to create a fake fingerprint that could unlock an iPhone 5S secured with Touch ID.
All you need for this trick is a 24 megapixel camera and access to a typical office laser printer.
And if you can't get your hands on a 24 megapixel camera, members of the Chaos Computer Club explained that an ordinary office scanner would work just fine. One of their comments described how it was more difficult to successfully screen print a t-shirt than it was to fool the Apple Touch ID system, a point I can relate to coming from a screen printing background myself.
And with currency clearly poised to take over the electronic payment market and Touch ID being open for third-party developers to use in their applications, it doesn't look like it's going to be too safety conscious for consumers such as myself.
As already stated, currency payments are not protected from fraud because of their ACH transfer method, and they seem willing to do whatever it takes to outdo the competition, with the current trend, of course, being the Touch ID.
The widespread use of Touch ID throughout multiple third-party apps also breaks one of the first rules of cybersecurity. Don't use the same password for more than one account.
What's more, the BBC World Service reported in 2012 that an estimated $100 billion
That's £66 billion.
Is lost through acts of fraud each year. And according to a report late last year from the FBI,
there has been approximately 100 million in attempted losses due to ACH fraud as of October 2009.
Yeah, they're pretty big figures. However, as many of our listeners may know, there are some situations where your Touch ID will lock down and force you to enter your 4-digit passcode or strong alphanumeric password instead.
Which includes when your Touch ID hasn't been used for 48 hours, if your fingerprint isn't recognised 5 times in a row, and if a remote lock has been sent via Find My iPhone. In all these cases, Apple is defaulting to a security state to help protect your data and your iPhone.
So Apple are doing something about it. However, in light of the recent Million Mask March, a final interesting point to note is that while police can't force you to reveal your PIN to unlock your phone, they can force you to unlock your phone with Touch ID.
Apple have now signed a deal with China Mobile, ending 6 years of negotiations.
Back in 2007, 2 journalists were arrested in China for incitement to subvert state power after emailing each other electronic journals advocating democratic reform and the establishment of a multi-party system to replace the autocratic state. In other words, they wanted a democracy.
The interesting part of this story is it's actually Yahoo who provided the information to the Chinese government that led to their arrest. Following the arrest, the pair and members of their immediate family were subjected to torture, inhumane and degrading treatment, and arbitrary, prolonged and indefinite detention.
And all of this was just for expressing their beliefs and for using the internet to communicate about democracy and human rights matters. This is just one of many examples as to why it's crucial for activists to maintain a high degree of privacy in order to protect themselves and their families from corrupt institutions. But I fear many Chinese activists may be fooled into using new generation iOS devices because they believe they are being protected by the new encryption technology that Apple has rolled out with iOS 8.
However, there is no denying that Touch ID is handy and an innovative feature for everyday use, and perhaps mobile devices should be seen more like hot wallets than to replace and store all of your key banking information. Personal security with any sort of online electronic transfer is absolutely everything. And at the moment, when you transfer money even between you and your friends, so you're doing a simple bank transaction, you actually have to give quite a lot of information to that person. I would like to see a shortening of the amount of information you have to give to each person that you transact with, backwards and forward through the chain.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like Fever have done with their coin IDs, which is pretty smart. If we could see a similar system implemented with, I mean, basically hot wallets for banking. So you could upload a certain amount of money to an app from your bank account via a direct debit transfer, so you're not paying processing fees.
The concept you're talking about there is similar to PayPal in many ways, but of course...
PayPal are greedy!
They're going down the Starbucks school of taxing. Dropbox finally announces apps for Windows Phone and Windows tablets, but nobody cares about that.
And next we welcome Michelangelo Guarassi onto the show, who is here to tell us about his innovative new Kickstarter campaign, Fizzly. Welcome to the show, Michelangelo. Where are you from and what's your role in Fizzly?
Yeah, we are a bunch of guys in Italy, Siena and Arezzo mainly, in Tuscany near Florence. We are a team of passionate people working in interaction design, physical computing, psychology, computer engineers. And, well, my role here is the growth hacker and interaction designer. And in Fizzly, I'm involved in designing the interaction and the design of the apps.
So, what are the benefits of using Fizzly then?
Well, Fizzly is meant to augment the interaction we currently have with our mobile devices. So let's start from what it is. It is a tiny smart tag. It's really small, it's really stylish, which has a bunch of sensors in it. It can detect movements, but it also an LED and a buzzer. So basically, when I move Fizzly, it sends this movement to my mobile phone, so I can trigger whatever action I want. If I swipe and I tell the phone, if I swipe Fizzly to play a sound, it just plays a sound. This is the real basic of it. If we extend it, we understand that we can basically make, for example, an old toy be interactive and have sounds if we attach Fizzly to a teddy bear, thanks to the connection with the mobile phone. So the real advantage, the benefit is that we are augmenting the reality. We are giving our mobile devices superpowers, we may say.
Now, my co-host has actually mentioned we're kind of seeing the rise of devices like the Fitbit.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they've got the health apps, but none of them can actually measure a movement. So, for example, if you're doing squats or repetitions of weights, but you can clearly see that with the Fizzly, that's possible. So, as you've said, it goes from toys all the way to kind of health and fitness. So, do you see health and fitness as being a large part of this? I know in the video there's fantastic ways of gamifying skateboarding and squash.
Well, let's say that we not designed Fizzly for one particular purpose. As you said, we have smart tag for sports, for fitness. The core thing about Fizzly is that everyone can invent its own interaction. Yes, from a technical point of view, this is really similar to DIY, but in a more simple way. I wanted to, for example, to tell people that I'm back home on Twitter. I just attach Fizzly to my door, and when I come back, I can tweet automatically from my phone. So it's not about really measuring, it's about the experience, really, what our product is about. And it is about the apps that we're going to release with it that allows this simple way of creating events.
I had the similar idea actually when I was taking a look at your web. No, not to Fizzly, but to use Fizzly, was to attach one to my door. So when I come home, it would tweet out, Cameron's home or Cameron's left. Maybe not that I've left because of burglars, but certainly for when I've come home. I've just got a Philips Hue for the interactive light, so I mean that would be perfect for that, because although it uses geofencing, that's only for my iPad or any devices that sync up to the Wi-Fi connection here. So if it was, there's simply a Fizzly attached to the door which is connected to a phone that I could leave in the hallway, which then communicates with all the devices in the house, then anyone could come and go. And I thought that was really fantastic. I think you've opened up a lot of doors for potential there that no one else has done yet.
Yeah, Cameron, you got a point, really. Basically, there's a lot of potential in our everyday objects. And imagine what you can do if you turn them into smart objects. And that's what Fizzly is going to do. And as we are talking, really, we are now experimenting with Hue lights. And in the next days, we are going to publish a video on that. And you're going to be amazed by how simple will it be to create such an experience, which now is possible only for DIY or makers which know code. With Fizzly, it will be for everyone.
Absolutely excellent. It's about time someone has done something like this. We've kind of touched on it already, but what was your inspiration behind the product and app? I mean, I know it's obviously to open up the potential and the possibilities for interactivity with all kinds of objects for anyone, including non-coders. But I mean, is there anything that was kind of personal to you which inspired you?
Yeah, well, what drives me is really having fun, So, this is also the point about Fizzly, that there are a million ways of having fun with it. And that was just our core idea. This is our second Kickstarter campaign. And we designed something really creative last time with Meadow, this board for makers and DIY. And this time we want to focus on something playful, on something really that can foster the imagination of everyone. So this is where it all started, the seed of our concept. Yeah, since we are interaction designer, as I told you, we work with physical computing. We thought, now we can see that physical computing is only on fixed device. And since now there's this Internet of Things explosion, there are a lot of mobile devices. Why not to make this funnier? I mean, everyone is trying to do something serious with IoT, Internet of Things, or smart appliances, and there was no one doing something fun. So we wanted to fill this gap, actually.
You're pioneers of entertainment and interactivity.
Yeah, we tried to do it. Yeah.
Well, you're certainly succeeding from what I've seen. Could you tell us more about your Kickstarter campaign and why you chose to use Kickstarter?
This is our second time, and what we liked a lot about it, not just you are asking dreamers like you to contribute to your own idea, but you are effectively sharing the final design process with your bakers. So they are not just backing, giving you some money to start your idea, to bootstrap, but they are also taking part, they are giving us suggestions how to finalize the design, they're giving new ideas, feedbacks. So the outcome of crowdfunding campaign is that not only you gain popularity, but also you have a product which is made also by your potential users. This is something really amazing. You see, when people participate, gives your idea something that really thrills us. So that is basically why we choose Kickstarter.
As we mentioned, Fizzly has an open API.
Yeah.
Which again, I think is fantastic. There just seems to be feature after feature that's kind of winning with this thing. Could you tell us more about the open API, please?
Basically, what we think is that Fizzly can be enjoyed in 1,000 ways, and we cannot think them all. So since there are a lot of brilliant developers out there, we are releasing simple libraries to allow them to integrate the Fizzly capabilities into their existing apps, or probably create new ones. And this is from the software side, so this will be available both for iOS and Android. Fizzly has also an hardware expansion port. So this means you can attach new sensors like thermometer to it in an easy, straightforward way. Or you can also add, for example, a motor or a relay switch, whatever. We want also to enable hardware manufacturers or makers to use this. And basically what they have is a Bluetooth gateway to their projects. So we really want people to use it and to expand it. And we would really like to see, for example, one day the Spotify app as Fizzly support integrated, so I can swipe my Fizzly and go to the next.
As you've just said, they're the kind of third-party apps that you'd kind of like to see released for Fizzly. I mean, I can imagine sort of some young people getting together and making battle tag. And I mean, I'm sure that if you heard of LARP, live action role playing, I think there's huge potential for that, and kind of the scoring system, creating events. What apps would you personally like to see released?
Since one of my greatest passion is music, both creation and reproduction, I would really like to see some DJ apps to use it. Also, I would like to see some of the popular games that we have today, which can use Fizzly, like a Wii for our mobile phones. That would be awesome, really. And why not? You mentioned before the sports app. I just imagine what Fizzly can do with the apps I use today now. But instead of touching a screen, I would really want to use it swiping my hand, for example.
There's a lot of things that I've been reading about that saying the internet is becoming less and less of a visual element of our lives, and it's becoming integrated into physical objects. You know, this is a real big leap actually towards all of this. And how long has the idea taken to develop into the working projects you have now? Were there any major problems that you came across on the way?
We didn't really face a lot of problems, but probably what was most complicated was fit all the technology into a tiny package. And if you look on our Kickstarter page, there is a lot of sense, a lot of technology in a really, really small form factor, which surprised us how good it has come. And probably the most difficult part from a design point of view was framing somehow Fizzly. Since it has so much possibilities, we needed to focus on some, because we cannot tackle them all. To make an effective design, we had to choose some aspects to privilege amongst the other. And for example, we focused on gaming and on augmenting real stuff instead, for example, tracking for sports or health. So
let's say we've got some aspiring app developers listening to the show. Maybe they're students, maybe they're just sort of entering into the world of apps, and they're listening to this podcast and they're thinking, you know what, I really want to get involved with this. I really want to make an app. What should they do?
I like to tell anyone that to do something great, you should learn to learn. So it's not really technical, it's just a mindset that you should be prepared to be curious, to invent every time, to reinvent what you've done. And try to do something simple, actually, not reinvent the wheel, but find a way to do something simple that just works, which is really difficult. It's a good exercise. This is my only suggestion. And if they want to get started with Fizzly, we are preparing something really exhaustive to start with, some guides, some APIs. Well, what they do is just they have to learn it. That's it.
It's as straightforward as that.
Yeah, our relation with computer, with technology is changing really fast. We are not now talking the language of computers. If I use my PC, I just have to type on a keyboard, look in a screen, and this is not the way we are meant to communicate. With Internet of Things, we have now computers and technology which understand our natural language, our natural way of behaving. We started a long time ago, and now we can see that the points are unifying. I don't know if I can say that, that everything is coming together in Fizzly, but also in other fields of technology we follow.
We'll be continuing that interview next week, but for now, if you're thinking of starting up a Kickstarter campaign yourself, make sure you check out Kickstarter Success Secrets on audible.com. It's usually $4.54, but you can get it right now for free from us, www.audibletrial.com/iOS app-to-date.
We'll also be launching a new website on Monday, packed full of more iOS goodness. And some great artwork of me and Luke in the traditional GTA style. You really have to check it out. It's pretty cool.
Similar to Kickstarter is Patreon.com. Patreon.com is similar to Kickstarter for ongoing projects and supports many current podcasts such as iOS App News 24. If you would like to become a Patreon and pledge a certain amount every month or for every podcast, please do. It would really help us pay the bills and keep the Philips Hue lights on.
Or flickering.
Make sure you head over to patreon.com and look us up. We are 3 Deal Studio. That's the number 3 Deal Studio. Thank you very much for listening in this week. Make sure you join us next week where we'll be discussing the key differences and all you need to know about Google Fit, Apple Health Kit and Microsoft Health, as well as all the latest iOS app news and developments.
We'd also like to thank Michelangelo and the Fizzly team for coming on the show today. And we'd also like to thank Lamar Wilson and Casey Jackson from Fever, who were on the show last week. That's episodes 9 and 10. We've got Fever and Happy Halloween. So Luke, who was number 1 on the Tech News podcast charts this week?
We were. Thank you so much, guys. We've outranked everybody in the world for at least 24 hours. That was absolutely amazing. Make sure you share with all your friends and hopefully we'll do it again this week.
Yeah, thank you very much. We were first and third, so we were dominating the charts. It was pretty good. It's it's really great, and it gives us a bit of a kick to improve the show even more.
We'll see you next week, Tuesday.
The day I got the phone, people would probably look but not say anything. But over in America, they're like, "Oh my God, it's the new iPhone!" And it was like, I was getting it everywhere, and it was like, "Don't bend it! Oh my God!" Don't, and everyone was like, "Is it bent? Yeah, is it, just crazy." But it's the whole kind of people just get so enveloped in all this stuff, don't they?
Yeah, it's Kaizen. I don't know what that means yet.
I keep saying it. But
You learned Kaizen in GCSE?
Yeah.
What school did you go to, man? School's crazy. I think I learned how to count to 10 in my GCSE.